You know, I once received a letter from a woman that I've kept with me for years. She wrote to me from a place of such profound pain that her words seemed to bleed through the paper. She had lost her husband in a sudden accident, leaving her alone with two young children. She had lost her job during the same period due to company restructuring. Her health was failing from the stress. And she wrote, "I don't know how much more I can take. This pain feels endless. It feels like it will swallow me whole and never let go. I don't see how I can survive this, let alone ever be happy again. Tell me honestly, does this pain ever end, or am I condemned to feel this way for the rest of my life?" I sat with that letter for a long time before responding because I wanted to tell her the truth, not offer empty platitudes or false promises. And the truth I wanted to share with her, the truth I want to share with you today, is something that has the power to transform how you experience suffering. It's a truth that can give you hope in your darkest moments, strength when you feel you have none left, and courage to keep going when everything in you wants to give up. The truth is this: pain has an expiry date. Not because pain isn't real, not because your suffering doesn't matter, not because you should just get over it, but because pain, by its very nature, is temporary. It comes, it stays for a season. And if you allow it, if you work with it rather than against it, it transforms and eventually passes, leaving behind something you didn't have before: wisdom, strength, depth, compassion, and a version of yourself that's more resilient than you ever imagined possible. Now, I know that when you're in the middle of intense pain, when grief is crushing you, when heartbreak feels unbearable, when disappointment has shattered your dreams, when illness or loss or betrayal, failure has brought you to your knees, the last thing you want to hear is that it's temporary. Because in that moment, it doesn't feel temporary. It feels permanent, eternal, all-consuming. It feels like this is your new reality, and it will never change. The pain has become so much a part of your identity that you can't imagine yourself without it. But let me tell you something based on observation, based on wisdom passed down through generations, based on the experiences of countless people who have walked through the valley of suffering and emerged on the other side. What feels permanent in this moment is actually transitional. What seems like it will last forever is actually passing through. Pain is like a storm and you are like a mountain. The storm is fierce, the storm is real, the storm seems endless when you're in the middle of it. But storms, by their very nature, pass. Mountains remain. You will remain. The storm of pain will pass. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this profound truth. There was once a king who was given a ring by a wise sage. The sage told him, "This ring has a special power. When you look at the inscription inside during your greatest joy, it will humble you. When you look at it during your deepest despair, it will give you hope." The king was curious and asked, "What does it say?" The sage smiled and said, "When the time is right, you will read it." Years passed. The king enjoyed great success. His kingdom prospered. His people loved him. His wealth increased. His power expanded. He felt invincible, on top of the world. One day, during a grand celebration of yet another victory, he remembered the ring. He took it off and read the inscription inside. It said, "This too shall pass." The words humbled him instantly. His pride dissolved. He realized that his current success, his current joy, his current power, all of it was temporary, and this realization made him more grateful, more humble, more grounded. More years passed. Then tragedy struck. The king's kingdom was invaded. He lost battles, lost territory, lost wealth. People turned against him. He lost his family to illness. Everything he had built seemed to crumble. He found himself alone, defeated, in despair, ready to give up on life. In his darkest moment, he remembered the ring again. With trembling hands, he took it off and read the inscription. "This too shall pass." And in that moment, something shifted. Yes, he was in pain. Yes, he had lost much. Yes, his current situation was terrible. But it was not permanent. It would pass. This gave him hope. This gave him the strength to keep going. And indeed, time passed, circumstances changed, and he rebuilt his life, though differently than before. This too shall pass. 4 simple words that contain one of the most powerful truths about human existence. Whatever you're experiencing right now, whether ecstasy or agony, whether success or failure, whether joy or pain, it is temporary. It will pass. This isn't pessimism about good times or optimism about bad times. This is realism about the nature of life itself. Life is change. Life is impermanence. Nothing stays the same. Everything is in constant flux. And your pain, as real and intense as it is part of that flux. It has an expiry date. Now, I want to be very clear about what I mean when I say pain has an expiry date, because this truth can be misunderstood. I'm not saying that if you just wait passively, pain will automatically disappear and everything will be fine. I'm not saying you should suppress your pain or pretend it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that some pains don't leave scars or that you'll necessarily return to exactly who you were before the pain. What I'm saying is more nuanced and more empowering than that. Pain has an expiry date, but you have a role to play in determining when that date arrives and what you become through the process. Pain is like a teacher. It comes into your life with lessons. If you resist the lessons, if you fight against the pain, if you try to avoid or numb or suppress it, the pain will stay longer. The teacher will remain until the lessons are learned. But if you face the pain, if you feel it fully, if you ask what it's trying to teach you, if you allow it to transform you rather than destroy you, the pain completes its purpose and moves on. The expiry date arrives not through passive waiting, but through active engagement with your suffering. Let me tell you about a man I know who lost everything in a business failure. His company collapsed. He lost his life savings. He lost his reputation in his industry. He lost relationships with partners who blamed him. He fell into a deep depression. For months he was consumed by pain, by shame, by regret. He kept replaying his mistakes, torturing himself with what ifs and if onlys. He was stuck in his pain, going in circles, seeing no way out. One day he had what he described as a moment of clarity. He realized that his pain wasn't going away because he was fighting it. He was resisting his new reality, refusing to accept what had happened, clinging to who he used to be, trying to go back to a past that no longer existed. And in that resistance, he was prolonging his suffering. So he made a different choice. He decided to stop resisting and start accepting. He said to himself, yes, this happened. Yes, I failed. Yes, I lost everything. This is my reality now. I can't change the past, but I can choose how I move forward from here. That acceptance was the beginning of his healing. Not because acceptance made the pain disappear instantly, but because acceptance allowed him to stop fighting reality and start working with it. He began asking different questions. Not why did this happen to me? What can I learn from this? What does this failure teach me about business, about relationships, about myself? Who do I need to become to rise from this? He started taking small actions, rebuilding slowly, applying the lessons he had learned. It took time. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but gradually, day by day, it lessened. The grip it had on him weakened. The darkness started giving way to light. And one day, about 2 years after his business failed, he realized something profound. He was genuinely happy, not despite what had happened, but because of what he had become through it. The failure had taught him humility, resilience, wisdom, compassion. He had started a new venture, smaller but aligned with his values in ways his previous business wasn't. He had deeper relationships because adversity had shown him who his real friends were. He was more at peace because he had learned to accept life's impermanence and unpredictability. He told me the pain I thought would kill me actually remade me. It had an expiry date, but I had to stop fighting it for that date to arrive. I had to let it teach me. I had to let go of who I was to become who I needed to be. And now looking back, I wouldn't trade that painful period for anything because of who it made me. This is what I mean when I say pain has an expiry date. The pain transforms from something that's happening to you into something that's happening for you. From an enemy to a teacher, from a curse to a catalyst. But this transformation requires something from you. It requires that you don't just endure your pain, but that you engage with it, that you ask what it's asking of you, that you allow yourself to be changed by it. There's a beautiful metaphor I want to share with you. You know how carbon under intense pressure and heat becomes a diamond? The carbon doesn't enjoy the pressure. If carbon had feelings, it would probably want the pressure to stop, want the heat to end. But that pressure and heat are precisely what transform ordinary carbon into something precious, something beautiful, something that lasts forever. Your pain is the pressure. Your suffering is the heat. And you, if you allow it, are being transformed into something more beautiful, more valuable, more resilient than you were before. But there's something crucial you need to understand. While pain has an expiry date, that date can be significantly delayed if you do certain things. Let me tell you what keeps pain alive longer than it needs to. B. What extends its expiry date indefinitely. First, resisting reality. When you refuse to accept what has happened, when you keep saying this shouldn't have happened, this isn't fair, this isn't right, you're fighting against what is. And fighting against reality is exhausting and futile. Reality doesn't care about your opinion of it. What happened, happened. The more you resist it, the more you suffer. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what happened or that you think it's okay. Acceptance means you acknowledge reality as it is, which frees up your energy to deal with it rather than fight against it. Second, attaching your identity to your pain. When you start defining yourself by your suffering, when you become the person who was betrayed or the person who lost everything or the victim of circumstances, your pain becomes part of who you are. And we hold on to our identity fiercely, even when that identity is causing us suffering. You need to remember that you are not your pain. You are the person experiencing pain, but you are not the pain itself. You are the sky, and pain is like weather passing through. Don't confuse the weather for the sky. Third, isolating yourself. Pain makes us want to withdraw, to hide, to deal with it alone. But isolation intensifies suffering. You are not meant to carry your pain alone. Sharing your burden with trusted others, whether friends, family, counselors, or support groups, doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Connection is healing. Isolation is fertilizer for pain. Fourth, numbing yourself. When pain becomes unbearable, we often try to escape it through various forms of numbing, excessive work, substances, endless entertainment, compulsive behaviors, anything to avoid feeling what we're feeling. But here's the paradox. The only way out of pain is through it. When you numb it, you don't eliminate it. You just freeze it in time. The pain stays, waiting for you to finally face it. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. Fifth, refusing to extract meaning or lessons from your pain. If you go through suffering and learn nothing, gain nothing, become nothing more than you were, the pain was truly wasted. But if you ask, what is this pain teaching me? How is it revealing my strength? What is it asking me to let go of? Who is it inviting me to become? Then the pain has purpose, and pain with purpose is bearable. It's meaningless suffering that destroys us. So if you want the expiry date of your pain to arrive sooner rather than later, if you want to move through suffering rather than being stuck in it, here's what you need to do. Accept your reality as it is, not as you wish it were. Feel your feelings fully without judgment. Cry when you need to cry. Grieve what you've lost. Acknowledge your pain. Reach out for support. Share your burden with people who care about you. Take care of your basic needs even when you don't feel like it. Eat, sleep, move your body because your physical state affects your emotional state. Ask what your pain is teaching you, what it's revealing, what it's asking you to release or embrace. And finally, take small actions toward healing, toward rebuilding, toward moving forward, even when those actions feel impossibly hard. Let me share one more story with you, a story that moved me deeply. There was a woman who lost her only child, a teenage daughter, in a senseless act of violence. The grief was unimaginable. The kind of pain that makes you question whether you want to continue living. For months, she was barely functional, lost in a darkness so profound that she couldn't see any light. People told her time heals all wounds, and she wanted to scream at them because time felt like it was making nothing better, only stretching out her agony. But slowly, imperceptibly at first, something began to shift, not because time passed, but because she made a choice. She decided that she couldn't bring her daughter back, but she could honor her daughter's memory by doing something meaningful with her pain. She started a foundation to support other families who had lost children to violence. She began speaking publicly about her experience. She turned her private pain into public purpose. Years later, she told me something I'll never forget. She said, "The pain of losing my daughter will never completely go away. There will always be a space in my heart that aches for her." But the pain changed. It transformed from something that was destroying me into something that was driving me to make a difference. The sharp, unbearable agony that felt like it would kill me, that pain expired. What remained was a tender sadness, a deep love, and a fierce commitment to creating meaning from tragedy. I learned that pain has an expiry date, but love doesn't. The pain transformed, but my love for my daughter and my commitment to honor her memory, that's eternal. This is the ultimate truth about pain's expiry date. The acute, unbearable, all-consuming pain does pass. The pain that makes you feel like you can't breathe, can't function, can't survive, that peak transforms. What often remains is tenderness, memory, maybe some sadness, but it's manageable. It's integrated into who you are rather than consuming who you are. You learn to carry it with grace rather than being crushed by it. I want to speak directly to those of you who are in pain right now. Maybe you're going through a breakup that's shattered your heart. Maybe you've lost someone you love. Maybe you failed at something that mattered deeply to you. Maybe you're dealing with illness or chronic pain. Maybe betrayal has left you unable to trust. Maybe disappointment has made you question everything. Whatever your pain is, I want you to know this. It will not last forever in its current intensity. I'm not minimizing your pain. I'm not telling you to just get over it. I'm telling you that this acute phase, this unbearable phase, this phase where you can't imagine surviving, this phase has an expiry date. You will not feel this way forever. You will smile again. You will laugh again. You will experience joy again. You will build a life again, not because you'll forget, not because the pain wasn't real, but because pain is not designed to be permanent. Pain is designed to be transformative. It comes, it does its work, it teaches its lessons, it reveals your strength, and then it changes form. The question is not whether it will pass, because it will. The question is who you will be when it does. Will you emerge bitter or better? Will you emerge closed or compassionate? Will you emerge defeated or determined? Will you emerge diminished or deepened? Your pain has an expiry date, but you get to choose what remains when the pain passes. You get to choose whether the pain destroys you or develops you, whether it makes you smaller or stronger, whether it leaves you with nothing or leaves you with wisdom and resilience that becomes your greatest asset. So hold on, keep going. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one breath at a time if necessary. The storm is fierce, but it will pass. The night is dark, but dawn will come. The pain is real, but it has an expiry date. And when that date arrives, when you look back at this difficult season from a place of healing and wholeness, you will be amazed at your own strength, grateful for the lessons, and perhaps even able to help someone else who is going through what you went through. Your pain has an expiry date, and on the other side of that date is a version of you that you haven't met yet, a version that's been forged in the fire of suffering and emerged stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more whole. That version of you is waiting. Keep going. You're closer to the expiry date than you think, and what's on the other side is worth every difficult step it takes to get there.